Friend, I want you to take a deep breath. Right now, wherever you are, whatever weight you're carrying on your shoulders, whatever storm is raging in your mind, I want you to know that this moment was made for you. This isn't just another video you stumbled upon while scrolling through your feed. This is an invitation to something your soul has been quietly crying out for, even if you haven't been able to put words to it. You see, there's something beautiful that happens when we finally stop running from the noise of this world and allow ourselves to simply be still with the words of Jesus. Not the complicated theology, not the religious arguments, not the pressure to have it all figured out, just the simple life-giving words that have been bringing peace to weary hearts for over 2,000 years. Maybe you clicked on this video because you're exhausted. Maybe you're lying in bed at 3 in the morning and sleep feels like a foreign concept because your mind won't stop racing. Maybe you're sitting in your car in a parking lot, trying to gather the courage to walk into another day that feels too heavy to bear. Maybe you're surrounded by people, yet feeling more alone than you've ever felt in your life. Or maybe you're just tired of being tired, and something deep inside you is whispering that there has to be more than this endless cycle of worry, striving, and sleepless nights. Here's what I want you to know before we go any further. You don't have to earn your place here. You don't have to clean up your act first. You don't have to have your life together or understand all the mysteries of faith. Jesus didn't speak only to the people who had it all figured out. He spoke to the broken, the weary, the confused, the desperate, and the lost. He spoke to people just like you and me. In the next few minutes, we're going to do something radical in our always on, always connected, always demanding world. We're going to slow down. We're going to breathe. And we're going to let the words that have sustained millions of people through their darkest hours wash over us like cool water on a scorching day. But first, let me paint you a picture of what happens when we truly encounter the words of Jesus. Not the sanitized Sunday school version, but the raw, powerful, life-altering words that met people right where they were in their deepest need. Picture a woman caught in the very act of adultery, dragged before a crowd ready to stone her to death. The shame, the terror, the certainty that her life was over. Then Jesus speaks. Not with condemnation, not with a lecture about morality, but with words that literally save her life and restore her dignity. Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. In that moment, shame loses its power. Fear dissolves, and hope is reborn. Picture a tax collector so despised by his community that he can't even look up when he prays. He beats his chest and whispers, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." Jesus sees him, not his occupation, not his past mistakes, not what others think of him. Jesus sees his heart and declares him justified. In that moment, worthlessness transforms into worth, isolation becomes belonging, and self-hatred melts into acceptance. Picture a thief hanging on a cross, death imminent, no time left to make amends or prove his worth. Yet in his final moments, Jesus promises him paradise. Not because of anything he did, but simply because he asked. In that moment, hopelessness becomes hope, death becomes a doorway, and a criminal becomes a child of God. These aren't just ancient stories, friend. These are portraits of what happens when the words of Jesus meet us in our reality. They don't just inform us or inspire us. They transform us. They don't just give us something to think about. They give us something to live for. Now here's what makes this different from every other voice competing for your attention. The world offers you solutions that require you to be stronger, smarter, more disciplined, more positive. Jesus offers you something entirely different. He offers you rest. Not the kind of rest you get from a vacation or a good night's sleep, though those have their place. He offers you the kind of rest that reaches into the deepest places of your soul and says, you can stop striving now. You can stop trying to earn love, acceptance, and peace. You can stop performing and pretending. You can simply be. But here's where it gets really beautiful. When Jesus speaks about rest, He's not talking about becoming passive or giving up on life. He's talking about finding that place of deep peace from which authentic life flows. It's like the difference between trying to force a river to flow uphill and simply removing the dam that's been blocking its natural course. Think about the most peaceful moment you've ever experienced. Maybe it was watching a sunset over the ocean, or holding a sleeping child, or that moment right before dawn when the world is perfectly still. Remember how, in that moment, you weren't trying to be at peace, you just were. That's a glimpse of what Jesus offers, not as a fleeting experience, but as a way of being. In our hyper-connected world, we've forgotten how to be still. We've forgotten that our worth isn't measured by our productivity, our peace isn't dependent on our circumstances, and our identity isn't determined by our performance. We've been running so hard and so long that we've forgotten what it feels like to simply breathe without anxiety, to exist without agenda, to be loved without conditions. The words we're about to explore together aren't just historical records or moral teachings. They're living words that have the power to reach across 2 millennia and speak directly to the ache in your heart right now. They're words that have sustained people through wars and famines, through loss and betrayal, through depression and despair. They're words that have the power to transform not just how you think, but how you live, how you love, and how you hope. But I want to be honest with you about something. This isn't going to be easy. Not because the words of Jesus are complicated, but because they're so simple that they challenge everything our culture tells us about how to find peace and meaning. We've been conditioned to believe that rest is something we earn, that peace is something we achieve, and that love is something we deserve. Jesus turns all of that upside down. He says rest is something we receive, peace is something we inherit, and love is something we're given freely, not because of who we are or what we've done, but because of who He is and what He's done. This challenges our deepest assumptions about how life works. It challenges our need to control, our compulsion to perform, our addiction to worry. It invites us into a completely different way of being human. And that can be both terrifying and liberating at the same time. So as we prepare to dive deeper into these life-giving words, I want you to do something. I want you to give yourself permission to let go. Just for the next few minutes, you don't have to solve all your problems. You don't have to figure out your next steps. You don't have to be strong or have it all together. You can simply receive. Think of yourself as coming home after the longest, most exhausting day of your life. The kind of day where nothing went right, where you gave everything you had and it still wasn't enough, where you're running on empty and don't know how you'll face tomorrow. Now picture walking through the door of the safest, most welcoming place you can imagine. Someone who loves you completely is there waiting, not to lecture you or fix you or give you more things to do, but simply to say, "You're home now. You can rest." That's what we're walking into together. Not a religious obligation or a spiritual discipline that requires effort and expertise, but a homecoming, a return to the place your soul was always meant to dwell. A place where you don't have to earn your keep or prove your worth or justify your existence. A place where you can simply be loved, exactly as you are, right where you are. The words we're about to explore have been called the greatest words ever spoken. And I believe that's true, but not because they're complex or profound in an intellectual sense. They're the greatest words ever spoken because they have the power to heal what's broken in the human heart. They have the power to bring peace to troubled minds, hope to despairing souls, and rest to weary spirits. These are the words that met Mary Magdalene in her shame and transformed her into an evangelist. These are the words that met Peter in his betrayal and restored him to friendship. These are the words that met Thomas in his doubt and strengthened his faith. These are the words that met the disciples in their fear and filled them with courage. And these are the words that can meet you right now, exactly where you are, in whatever you're facing, and begin to work the same kind of transformation in your life. So settle in, take another deep breath, and prepare to encounter something that has the power to change everything. Not through force or manipulation or guilt, but through the gentle, persistent, overwhelming power of love speaking truth over your life. The words of Jesus aren't just historical artifacts to be studied. They're living waters for thirsty souls, bread for the hungry heart, and rest for the weary traveler. They're exactly what you've been looking for, even if you didn't know you were looking for it. Are you ready to discover what happens when you stop trying so hard and start trusting so deeply? Because that's where we're headed together. Into the space where effort gives way to grace, where striving surrenders to receiving, where the exhausting work of being human meets the gentle rest of being beloved. You know, there's something remarkable about the way Jesus spoke to people. He didn't use the language of the religious elite or the complicated terminology of the scholars. He used the language of everyday life. He talked about bread and water, about seeds and soil, about lost coins and found sheep. He spoke in ways that a child could understand, yet contained depths that the wisest minds are still exploring thousands of years later. This wasn't accidental. Jesus knew that the deepest truths aren't complicated puzzles to be solved by the intellectually gifted. They're simple realities to be received by the humble in heart. They're not hidden from ordinary people. They're hidden for ordinary people, like treasures waiting to be discovered by anyone willing to dig beneath the surface of religious complexity and cultural noise. But here's what I find absolutely beautiful about this. The same voice that spoke the universe into existence, that commanded storms to be still and mountains to move, that voice chooses to whisper gently to your wounded heart. The same power that raised the dead and opened blind eyes. That power works quietly in your everyday moments, transforming anxiety into peace, fear into faith, despair into hope. Think about that for a moment. The creator of everything that exists is intimately interested in the details of your struggle. The one who holds galaxies in place cares about your sleepless nights. The one who knows the number of stars in the heavens also knows the number of tears you've cried when no one was watching. This is where so many people get tripped up in their spiritual journey. They think they need to become someone different before they can truly encounter Jesus. They think they need to clean up their language, fix their habits, resolve their doubts, or get their emotions under control first. It's like thinking you need to be healthy before you can go to the doctor, or clean before you can take a shower. The beautiful, scandalous, life-changing truth is that Jesus meets us in our mess. Not after we've cleaned it up, not when we've got it all figured out, but right in the middle of our chaos, our questions, our failures, and our fears. He doesn't wait for us to become worthy of his attention. He declares us worthy by giving us his attention. Remember the woman at the well. She had a complicated history with men, a reputation in her community, and enough shame to make her avoid the normal social patterns of her day. She came to draw water at the hottest time, when no one else would be there. She was hiding. And that's exactly where Jesus found her. Not in the synagogue, not when she had her act together, but at a well at noon, carrying water jars and emotional baggage in equal measure. And what did he do? He asked her for a drink. This simple request broke every social convention of the day. Men didn't speak to women they didn't know. Jews didn't associate with Samaritans. Religious teachers didn't engage with people of questionable reputation, but Jesus did all of this in one simple sentence because he saw beyond her circumstances to her heart. That conversation by the well became the longest recorded conversation Jesus had with anyone in the Gospels. Not with a religious leader, not with a person of influence or education, but with a woman whose life had been marked by broken relationships and social isolation. And by the end of their time together, she had become an evangelist, running back to her community with the news that she had met the Messiah. This is the pattern of how Jesus works. He finds us where we are, not where we think we should be. He speaks to us in our actual circumstances, not in our idealized versions of ourselves. He offers us what we actually need, not what we think we deserve. And what we actually need, more than anything else, is to know that we're loved. Not loved because of our performance. Not loved conditionally based on our behavior, but loved fundamentally, essentially, completely, just because we exist. This kind of love is so foreign to our experience that it's almost impossible to believe at first. We live in a world of transactions, where everything has a price and everyone has an agenda. We're used to earning approval, working for acceptance, and paying for everything we receive. The idea that someone would love us freely, completely, without condition or reservation, strikes us as too good to be true. But that's exactly what Jesus offers. And it's not just an emotional feeling or a nice sentiment. It's a love that acts, that sacrifices, that gives. It's a love that doesn't just say nice things about us, but actually does something about our condition. It's a love that doesn't just accept us as we are, but also provides everything we need to become who we're meant to be. Here's where it gets even more beautiful. This love doesn't just change how we feel about ourselves. It changes how we see everything. When you really understand that you're unconditionally loved by the one who made you, it transforms how you view your past, your present, and your future. Your past stops being a source of shame and starts becoming a story of redemption. Those mistakes you've made, those wounds you've received, those seasons of darkness you've walked through, they don't disappear, but they take on new meaning. They become part of a larger story of grace, forgiveness, and healing. Your present stops being something you have to endure or escape and starts becoming something you can actually inhabit with peace. Those circumstances that seem overwhelming, those relationships that are challenging, those responsibilities that feel too heavy, they're still real, but they're no longer ultimate. You're held by something stronger than your circumstances. And your future stops being something you have to figure out or control and starts becoming something you can trust. Not because everything will go according to your plan, but because you're held by someone whose plan is better than anything you could imagine for yourself. This is what happens when the words of Jesus really take root in your heart. They don't just give you information about God, they give you an encounter with God. They don't just teach you about love, they immerse you in love. They don't just point you toward peace, they become the source of peace within you. But let me tell you something that might surprise you. This transformation doesn't happen all at once. And it doesn't happen without some resistance from within yourself. We're so used to earning our way, proving our worth, and controlling our outcomes that receiving free grace feels uncomfortable at first. There's a part of us that wants to add conditions to God's love. We want to believe that He loves us because we're good people, or because we believe the right things, or because we're trying hard to live right. But that's not how His love works. His love is the reason we can be good, not the result of being good. His love is what enables us to believe, not what we earn by believing. His love is what motivates us to live right, not what we receive for living right. This reversal of everything we've been taught about how relationships work can be disorienting. It can even feel threatening to our sense of control and self-sufficiency. But it's also the most liberating truth you'll ever encounter. When you really grasp that you're loved completely and unconditionally, something profound shifts inside you. The desperate need to prove yourself begins to quiet. The constant anxiety about whether you're good enough starts to fade. The exhausting effort to earn approval and avoid rejection begins to relax. And in that space, something beautiful happens. You start to become who you really are, not who you think you need to be acceptable. You start to love others from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. You start to serve from joy rather than obligation. You start to live from rest rather than striving. This is the invitation that Jesus extends to every weary heart, every anxious mind, every discouraged soul. It's not an invitation to try harder or do better. It's an invitation to come home to the love you've been searching for your entire life. It's an invitation to discover that the peace you've been chasing has been chasing you. It's an invitation to find rest for your soul in the only place it can truly be found. The words we're about to explore together aren't just ancient wisdom or moral instruction. They're the very words of life spoken by life himself to hearts that are desperate for something real, something lasting, something that can actually heal the deepest wounds and satisfy the deepest longings of the human experience. So take another breath, friend. Let your shoulders drop. Let your guard down. Let yourself be exactly where you are, exactly as you are, because that's exactly where Jesus wants to meet you. And now, let's talk about what it actually means to rest with the words of Jesus. Because rest, in the way Jesus spoke about it, isn't what most of us think it is. It's not the absence of activity or the end of responsibility. It's not about sitting in a corner somewhere doing nothing while the world falls apart around you. The rest that Jesus offers is something far more profound and practical than that. It's the rest that comes from knowing you're in the right hands. It's the rest that comes from understanding that your life has meaning and purpose beyond what you can see. It's the rest that comes from discovering that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders because someone else already is. Think about a child on a long car journey. They don't need to know the route, watch the road signs, or worry about traffic. They can fall asleep in the back seat because they trust that someone who loves them is doing the driving. They can rest completely because they know they're safe and that someone else is taking care of getting them where they need to go. That's the kind of rest Jesus offers to grown-ups who have forgotten how to trust, who have been driving themselves ragged trying to navigate life's complicated roads, who have been staying awake all night, worried about wrong turns and dead ends, and whether they have enough fuel to make it to tomorrow. But here's what's beautiful about this rest. It doesn't make you passive or irresponsible. A child who trusts the driver isn't being lazy. They're being wise. They're conserving their energy for the things that actually require their attention. They're not wasting their strength on things they can't control. When you learn to rest in the words of Jesus, something similar happens in your adult life. You stop exhausting yourself trying to control outcomes you can't control. You stop lying awake at night, rehearsing conversations that may never happen. You stop carrying anxiety about situations that may never occur. Instead, you learn to focus your energy on what's actually in front of you. You learn to be present to the people who are actually in your life. You learn to engage with the opportunities that are actually available to you today. You learn to love and serve and create from a place of peace rather than panic. This is what Jesus meant when he said his yoke is easy and his burden is light. He wasn't saying that life with him would be free of challenges or difficulties. He was saying that when you're connected to him, when you're learning from him, when you're walking in step with him, even the heavy things become bearable because you're not carrying them alone. Imagine trying to move a piano by yourself versus moving it with a team of experienced movers. The piano doesn't get lighter, but the burden becomes manageable because it's shared with people who know what they're doing. That's what happens when you yoke yourself to Jesus. The circumstances of your life don't necessarily change, but your capacity to handle them is transformed because you're no longer handling them alone. And here's something that might surprise you about the words of Jesus. They're not just comforting, they're also challenging. They comfort the disturbed, but they also disturb the comfortable. They bring peace to anxious hearts, but they also bring conviction to complacent lives. They offer rest to the weary, but they also offer purpose to the aimless. See, real rest isn't the absence of meaningful activity. Real rest is the presence of meaningful activity that flows from a peaceful center. It's the difference between being driven by fear and being drawn by love. It's the difference between working to prove your worth and working because you know your worth. When Jesus spoke to people, he didn't just offer them comfort. He offered them calling. He didn't just give them peace. He gave them purpose. He didn't just tell them they were loved. He showed them how to love. The woman caught in adultery wasn't just forgiven and dismissed. She was forgiven and redirected. Go and sin no more wasn't just a moral instruction. It was an invitation to a completely different way of living. This is what makes the words of Jesus so different from every self-help philosophy or therapeutic technique. They don't just make you feel better about your current situation. They actually change your situation by changing you from the inside out. They don't just help you cope with your circumstances. They give you the power to transform your circumstances through the power of transformed living. But transformation, real transformation, doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen through a single dramatic moment of revelation, though those moments can be part of the process. Real transformation happens through 1,000 small moments of choosing to believe what Jesus says about you, rather than what your circumstances or your history or your fears are telling you. It happens when you wake up anxious, and instead of immediately reaching for your phone to scroll through news that will make you more anxious, you reach for words that remind you that you're held by someone who knows the end from the beginning. It happens when you face a difficult conversation, and instead of rehearsing all the ways it could go wrong, you remind yourself that you're loved regardless of how that conversation unfolds. It happens when you make a mistake, and instead of spiraling into self-condemnation, you remember that your identity isn't defined by your performance, but by your position as a beloved child of God. These moments, these small choices to align your thoughts with the truth of who Jesus says you are, these are the building blocks of the transformed life. They're not dramatic or impressive from the outside, but they're revolutionary from the inside. And here's what's so beautiful about this process. You don't have to be strong enough to sustain it on your own. The same Jesus who spoke words of life and peace and rest also promised to send his Spirit to help you remember those words when you need them most, to bring them to life in your heart when your heart forgets, to make them real in your experience when your experience contradicts them. This isn't about positive thinking or mental discipline, though both of those can be helpful. This is about supernatural transformation. This is about the God who made you working in you to remake you into who you were always meant to be. This is about divine love, doing what human effort could never accomplish. And the beautiful thing is that this transformation doesn't require you to become someone completely different from who you are. It requires you to become more fully who you actually are, underneath all the layers of protection and performance and pretense you've wrapped around yourself. Jesus doesn't love an idealized version of you that doesn't actually exist. He loves the real you, the you that emerges when you stop trying so hard to be someone else. He loves your personality, your sense of humor, your way of seeing the world, your particular gifts and talents, even your quirks and imperfections. The transformation he offers doesn't erase your uniqueness. It enhances it. It doesn't make you generic. It makes you authentic. It doesn't turn you into a cookie-cutter version of some religious ideal. It turns you into the fullest, truest, most alive version of yourself. This is why spending time with the words of Jesus is so different from any other form of personal development or spiritual practice. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming yourself, but yourself as you exist in relationship with the one who made you and loves you and has plans for you that are better than anything you could plan for yourself. And as you begin to rest in this reality, as you begin to let these words sink deeper than your conscious mind into the very core of who you are, something amazing starts to happen. The peace you experience isn't just a private blessing. It becomes a gift you naturally share with others. When you're no longer desperate to prove your worth, you can actually see and appreciate the worth of other people. When you're no longer anxious about your own security, you can actually be present to others in their insecurity. when you're no longer driven by your own need for approval, you can actually offer genuine approval and encouragement to people who are still trapped in that desperate cycle. The rest that Jesus gives isn't selfish or isolating. It's generous and connecting. It makes you a better friend, a better family member, a better neighbor, a better colleague, a better human being. Not because you're trying harder to be good, but because goodness is flowing out of you naturally, from a heart that has been healed and filled and satisfied by divine love. This is the ripple effect of really encountering the words of Jesus. They don't just change you, they change the world around you through you. They don't just bring peace to your heart, they make you a peacemaker in your relationships. They don't just give you rest, they make you a place of rest for other weary people. But here's what I need you to understand about this process. It's not a performance you have to maintain. It's not a standard you have to live up to. It's not another way to earn God's approval or prove your spiritual maturity. It's simply what happens naturally when you really believe and receive what Jesus has said about you and done for you. The pressure is off. The striving can stop. The endless self-improvement project can be laid down. Not because growth and change aren't important, but because they happen most naturally and sustainably when they flow from a place of acceptance rather than a place of rejection, from a place of love rather than a place of fear, from a place of rest rather than a place of restlessness. So, as we prepare to dive even deeper into these life-giving words, I want you to let go of any pressure you might be feeling to have a certain kind of response or to experience some particular kind of transformation. I want you to let go of any expectations about what this should look like or feel like or produce in your life. Instead, I want you to simply open yourself to receive whatever God wants to give you in this moment. Maybe it's comfort for a broken heart. Maybe it's hope for a discouraged spirit. Maybe it's strength for a difficult season. Maybe it's clarity for a confusing situation. Maybe it's simply the reminder that you're not alone, you're not forgotten, and you're not beyond the reach of divine love. Whatever it is that you need most right now, Jesus knows, and His words have the power to provide it, not because of anything you've done to deserve it, but because of everything He's done to secure it for you. The table has been set, the invitation has been extended, and the only thing left is for you to take your place and receive what's been prepared for you. Are you ready to discover what it means to truly rest? Are you ready to experience words that don't just inform your mind, but transform your heart? Are you ready to encounter love that doesn't just feel good, but does good, bringing healing to wounded places and hope to discouraged spaces? Because that's exactly what's waiting for you in the words of Jesus. Not just information about God, but intimacy with God. Not just knowledge about love, but the actual experience of being loved completely and unconditionally. Not just the promise of peace, but peace itself, settling into your soul like dawn breaking over a dark landscape. The journey we're about to take together isn't just about hearing beautiful words, though they are beautiful. It's about allowing those words to do what they've always done best. Bring life to dead places, bring light to dark places, bring hope to desperate places, and bring rest to weary places. Your weary places, your dark places, your dead places, your desperate places. This is where Jesus specializes. This is where His words do their most powerful work. Not in the places where you have it all together, but in the places where you've fallen apart. Not in your strength, but in your weakness. Not in your certainty, but in your questions. So come as you are, with whatever you're carrying, whatever you're facing, whatever you're feeling. Come tired, come confused, come broken, come afraid. Come exactly as you are, because that's exactly who these words were spoken for. Come weary, come worried. Come with questions you're afraid to ask, and doubts you're ashamed to admit. Come with the kind of exhaustion that sleep can't fix, and the kind of loneliness that crowds can't cure. Come with your broken dreams and your shattered expectations. Come with your guilt and your regret and your fear of tomorrow. Come exactly as you are, because Jesus has never once turned away a sincere heart that sought him. You know what's remarkable about the way Jesus spoke to people? He never made them feel worse about themselves before making them feel better. He never used shame as a motivational tool or guilt as a pathway to growth. He met people in their pain and offered them something better, not by minimizing their struggles, but by maximizing his love. Think about the paralyzed man whose friends lowered him through the roof. Here was someone who couldn't even get to Jesus under his own power. He needed help just to get in the same room. And what were the first words Jesus spoke to him? Not, "Why didn't you come sooner?" Not, "You should have had more faith." Not, "Let me tell you everything that's wrong with your life." His first words were, "Take heart, son, your sins are forgiven." Before addressing the physical paralysis that everyone could see, Jesus addressed the spiritual paralysis that only he could see. He went straight to the deepest need, the hidden wound, the secret shame. He offered forgiveness before healing, acceptance before transformation, love before change. This is how Jesus always works. He doesn't wait for you to get your act together. He doesn't require you to understand everything about theology or have perfect faith or demonstrate your commitment through some kind of spiritual performance. He starts with love. He starts with acceptance. He starts with meeting you exactly where you are. But here's what's so beautiful about this approach. When you really experience that kind of unconditional love, when you really understand that you're accepted before you're acceptable, when you really grasp that you're loved not because of who you are, but because of who he is, everything else begins to change naturally. You don't have to force yourself to be different. You don't have to grit your teeth and try harder to be good. You don't have to manufacture feelings you don't have or pretend to be further along in your spiritual journey than you actually are. You simply receive the love that's being offered, and that love begins to transform you from the inside out. It's like a flower turning toward the sun. The flower doesn't strain or struggle or work hard to face the light. It simply responds naturally to the warmth and brightness that draws it. And in responding to that light, it grows and flourishes and becomes everything it was created to be. This is what happens when you turn your heart toward the words of Jesus. You don't have to manufacture some kind of spiritual experience or emotional response. You simply listen, receive, and allow those words to do what they've always done. Bring life, bring hope, bring healing, bring peace. And here's what I've discovered in my own journey and in walking alongside countless others who have found rest in these words. The transformation that comes isn't just internal. It's not just about feeling better or having a more positive outlook. Though those things often happen, the transformation is deeply practical. It changes how you handle stress, how you navigate relationships, how you make decisions, how you face uncertainty. When you really believe that you're held by someone who loves you completely and knows exactly what you need, it changes everything. That presentation you have to give at work tomorrow, still important, but not ultimate. That difficult conversation with your teenager, still challenging but not hopeless. That financial pressure you're facing, still real but not insurmountable. The circumstances don't necessarily change, but your capacity to handle them is transformed because you're not handling them alone. You're not depending solely on your own wisdom, your own strength, your own resources. You're connected to infinite wisdom, unlimited strength, and inexhaustible resources. This isn't just positive thinking or wishful hoping. This is the reality of what it means to be in relationship with the one who spoke the universe into existence and still knows your name. The one who numbers the stars in the sky and still counts the hairs on your head. The one who holds galaxies in place and still holds your heart with tender care. But I want to be honest with you about something. Learning to rest in this reality isn't always easy, especially at first. We've been conditioned by our culture, our experiences, maybe even our religious backgrounds, to believe that we have to earn our way, prove our worth, and maintain our standing through our performance. The idea that we can simply receive love, grace, peace, and acceptance as gifts rather than wages goes against everything our world teaches us about how relationships work. It can feel too good to be true, too simple to be real, too free to be valuable. There's a part of us that wants to pay for what we receive, to balance the scales, to make sure we've earned whatever blessing comes our way. We're uncomfortable with the idea of undeserved grace because it challenges our need to feel in control of our own destiny. But here's what I've learned through years of wrestling with this tension. The discomfort you feel when confronted with unconditional love isn't a sign that something's wrong with the love. It's a sign that something's been wrong with how you've been loved, how you've learned to love yourself, how you've understood love to work. True love, the kind of love Jesus offers, doesn't make you jump through hoops or meet conditions or prove your worthiness. True love sees your worth as inherent, not earned. True love gives because it chooses to give, not because you've done something to deserve the giving. This can be threatening to our sense of control because it means we can't manipulate or manage or guarantee this kind of love through our behavior. But it's also liberating because it means we can't lose this love through our behavior either. It's not dependent on our performance, so it's not destroyed by our failure. When you really let this truth sink in, when you really allow yourself to believe that you're loved with an everlasting love, that nothing can separate you from, it changes not just how you see yourself, but how you see everyone else. You start to recognize that every person you encounter is someone for whom Christ died, someone who bears the image of God, someone who is desperately loved, whether they know it or not. This recognition transforms your relationships in ways you never expected. That difficult coworker stops being just an obstacle to your peace and becomes a person carrying their own invisible wounds. That family member who always seems to push your buttons stops being just a source of frustration and becomes someone who might be acting out of their own pain and insecurity. You don't have to fix these people or solve their problems or even like their behavior, but you can see them through different eyes, eyes that have been opened by experiencing grace yourself. You can respond to them from a different place, a place of fullness rather than emptiness, a place of security rather than defensiveness. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of resting in the words of Jesus. The peace you receive isn't just for you. It becomes a gift you naturally share with others, not through preaching or lecturing or trying to fix them, but simply through being a peaceful presence in their chaotic world. People are drawn to peace like they're drawn to water when they're thirsty. They may not be able to articulate what it is about you that feels different, but they sense something. They sense safety, acceptance, a lack of judgment, a presence that doesn't demand anything from them, but simply offers what they desperately need. This is how the kingdom of God advances, not through force or manipulation or elaborate programs, but through transformed people living transformed lives, being salt and light in a world that's lost its flavor and lost its way. But here's what's crucial to understand about this process. You don't become this kind of person by trying harder to be this kind of person. You become this kind of person by receiving more deeply the love that makes this kind of life possible. You become a source of peace by drinking more deeply from the source of peace. You become a bearer of light by spending more time in the presence of light himself. This is why time with the words of Jesus isn't just nice or helpful or good for you in some general spiritual sense. It's absolutely essential for anyone who wants to live a life that matters, a life that makes a difference, a life that reflects the love and grace and peace of God in a world that desperately needs to see what those things look like in human form. The words we're about to explore together aren't just ancient wisdom or moral instruction, though they certainly contain both. They're the very breath of God, spoken to breathe life into dead places, hope into discouraged places, peace into troubled places. They're words that have sustained martyrs through torture, comforted mothers through the loss of children, strengthened ordinary people through extraordinary trials. These words have toppled kingdoms and built hospitals. They've ended slavery and started orphanages. They've brought down walls of hatred and built bridges of reconciliation. They've transformed criminals into saints and turned cowards into heroes. They've done all of this not through political power or military might, but through the simple revolutionary power of love speaking truth into human hearts. And that same power is available to you right now, in whatever situation you're facing, whatever burden you're carrying, whatever battle you're fighting. The same Jesus who spoke peace to stormy seas can speak peace to your stormy heart. The same Jesus who opened blind eyes can open your eyes to see possibilities you never imagined. The same Jesus who raised the dead can raise to life the dead places in your soul. But unlike a magic formula or a self-help technique, the words of Jesus work not by giving you more things to do, but by reminding you of what's already been done. They work not by adding pressure to your life, but by removing pressure from your life. They work not by making you stronger, but by connecting you to strength that never fails. This is the great paradox of the Christian life. The less you depend on yourself, the more capable you become. The more you acknowledge your weakness, the more you experience supernatural strength. The more you admit your need, the more you discover that your need has already been met. Jesus didn't come to make bad people good, though that often happens. He came to make dead people alive. He didn't come to improve your performance, though your performance may improve. He came to change your identity. He didn't come to give you a new set of rules to follow, though following him will change how you live. He came to give you a new heart that naturally wants to please the one who loves you. This is why the rest he offers is so different from any other kind of rest you've ever experienced. It's not the rest of inactivity, but the rest of right activity. It's not the rest of avoidance, but the rest of engagement from a peaceful center. It's not the rest of escape, but the rest of being exactly where you are with exactly who you are, knowing that you're held and loved and guided by someone who sees the bigger picture and can be trusted with your whole life. As you prepare to receive these words, as you open your heart to let them do their gentle, powerful work in the deepest places of your being, I want you to remember something. You don't have to understand everything to benefit from everything. You don't have to have your theology perfectly worked out to experience the love of God perfectly working in you. You don't have to be able to explain how grace works to receive grace. You don't have to comprehend the mystery of divine love to be transformed by divine love. You don't have to figure out all the answers to find rest for your soul in the presence of the one who is the answer to every question that really matters. The invitation is simple. Come as you are. Bring what you have. Offer what you can. Receive what you need. Let the words that have been healing hearts for 2,000 years begin their healing work in your heart right now. Because here's what I know about you, even though we've never met. You're tired. You're carrying things you were never meant to carry alone. You're trying to be strong when what you really need is to be held. You're working so hard to earn love that you've forgotten how to simply receive love. And here's what I know about Jesus, because I've spent years learning to rest in his words, to trust in his promises, to find my identity in his love. He sees you exactly as you are, and he loves you exactly as you are, and he has exactly what you need to become everything you were created to be, not through striving, but through receiving, not through performing, but through believing, not through working harder, but through resting deeper, not through being more, but through knowing more fully how much you're already loved. The words that are coming next aren't just information to be processed by your mind. They're transformation to be received by your heart. They're not just truth to be understood, but life to be experienced. They're not just promises to be believed, but power to be unleashed in your everyday existence. So take one more deep breath. Let your body relax. Let your mind quiet. Let your heart open. And prepare to discover what happens when the God of the universe speaks directly to the deepest needs of your soul with words of life, words of love, words of hope, and words of perfect, soul-satisfying rest. The beautiful thing about what we're stepping into now is that these aren't just words on a page or concepts to understand intellectually. These are living words that have the power to reach across time and space and speak directly to the exact place where you are right now. They meet you in your Monday morning anxiety and your 3 a.m. loneliness. They find you in your crowded office and your empty house. They locate you in your success and your failure, in your certainty and your doubt. And what's remarkable is how personal they become. The same verse that brought comfort to a grieving mother in the 1st century can speak hope into your broken heart today. The same promise that strengthened a persecuted believer in ancient Rome can give you courage to face whatever you're walking through right now. The same invitation that transformed a tax collector can transform you. This isn't because the words are magical or because there's some special formula hidden in the ancient text. It's because the one who spoke these words is alive, active, and intimately involved in your story. He doesn't just know about your situation from a distance, he's present in your situation, working through it, using even the difficult parts to accomplish something beautiful in your life. But here's where it gets really personal. Jesus doesn't speak to you the same way he speaks to everyone else. Yes, his love is the same, his character is unchanging, his promises are sure, but the way he reaches your heart is unique to you. The verse that stops you in your tracks might not even register with someone else. The promise that becomes your lifeline might seem ordinary to your neighbor. The word that brings you peace might not be the same word that brings peace to your friend. This is because he knows you. Not just your name or your circumstances, but the deepest parts of who you are. He knows how you process information, what kind of imagery speaks to your imagination, what tone of voice reaches past your defenses. He knows what you need to hear and exactly how you need to hear it. Think about how different people in the Gospels received different words from Jesus. To Martha, busy and distracted, he spoke about choosing the better part. To Mary Magdalene, broken and desperate, he spoke words of forgiveness and dignity. To Peter, impulsive and eager, he spoke about the cost of following. To John, sensitive and contemplative, he spoke about love. Each person received what they specifically needed in the way they could best receive it. This same personal attention is available to you. The Jesus who knew exactly what to say to a grieving sister, a doubting disciple, a searching seeker, he knows exactly what to say to you. And he's not limited by your circumstances or your past or your questions or your failures. He can reach you anywhere, anytime, through any means he chooses. Sometimes he speaks through a verse you've read 100 times before, but suddenly it hits you differently. Sometimes he speaks through words you've never noticed, jumping off the page like they were written specifically for your situation. Sometimes he speaks through a single phrase that echoes in your mind for days, becoming more meaningful each time you remember it. The key is learning to listen, not just with your mind, but with your heart. This isn't about analyzing or dissecting or trying to extract some deeper meaning through intellectual effort. This is about receiving, about letting the words wash over you like rain on dry ground, about allowing them to do what they've always done best, bring life to whatever needs life. And here's something beautiful that happens as you learn to receive these words more deeply. You start to recognize his voice, not just in scripture, but in your everyday life. You start to notice how he speaks to you through conversations with friends, through moments in nature, through circumstances that seem random but aren't. You develop what the old writers called ears to hear, the ability to recognize when God is speaking, no matter what means he chooses to use. This doesn't happen overnight, and it's not about becoming some kind of spiritual expert who has special revelation that others don't have. It's about becoming more familiar with the heart and character of the one who loves you, so that when he speaks, you recognize his voice among all the other voices competing for your attention. It's like learning to recognize your best friend's voice in a crowded room. You don't have to strain to hear it or work hard to identify it. You just know. After years of conversation, of sharing life together, of listening to that voice in all kinds of situations, you can pick it out instantly from among a dozen other voices. That's what happens as you spend time with the words of Jesus. You become so familiar with his heart, his character, his way of speaking to the human soul that you start to recognize his voice everywhere. And once you learn to recognize his voice, everything changes. You stop being tossed around by every opinion, every criticism, every fearful thought that crosses your mind. You stop being controlled by circumstances or emotions or other people's expectations. You start living from a center of peace that's connected to something eternal, something unshakable, something that doesn't depend on everything in your life going according to plan. But let me tell you something that might surprise you about this journey of learning to rest in the words of Jesus. It's not always comfortable. In fact, sometimes it's deeply uncomfortable. But in the way that healing is uncomfortable, or the way that growth is uncomfortable, or the way that coming home after being lost is uncomfortable at first. These words have a way of exposing things in us that we've been hiding, even from ourselves. They shine light into corners of our hearts that we've kept dark. They ask questions we've been avoiding. They challenge assumptions we've never examined. They disturb our peace in order to give us true peace. Jesus said he came to bring a sword, not peace. And at first that seems to contradict everything we've been talking about. But what he meant was that his truth has a way of cutting through the false peace we try to create through denial, avoidance, or pretense. It cuts through the lies we tell ourselves about our condition, our relationships, our priorities. Sometimes the words of Jesus comfort the disturbed, and sometimes they disturb the comfortable. Sometimes they bring relief to the weary, and sometimes they bring conviction to the careless. Sometimes they offer rest to the restless, and sometimes they stir up the complacent. But here's what's beautiful about this process. Even when the words of Jesus make us uncomfortable, they're never cruel. Even when they challenge us, they're never condemning. Even when they convict us, they're never crushing. There's always love behind the challenge, grace behind the conviction, hope behind the discomfort. It's the discomfort of a doctor setting a broken bone. Painful in the moment, but necessary for healing. It's the discomfort of a trainer pushing you beyond what you think you can do, challenging but ultimately strengthening. It's the discomfort of a friend telling you a truth you need to hear but don't want to hear. Difficult but motivated by love. This is why learning to rest with the words of Jesus isn't passive. It's not about finding a spiritual hammock where you can check out from the challenges of life. It's about finding a spiritual foundation that's solid enough to support you through any challenge life might bring. Real rest isn't the absence of activity. Real rest is the presence of right activity flowing from a peaceful center. It's working without anxiety, serving without resentment, loving without manipulation, giving without expectation. It's being fully engaged with life while remaining fully surrendered to the one who holds your life. Think about Jesus himself. He was never hurried, never frantic, never overwhelmed, even when facing enormous crowds, impossible demands, and ultimately his own death. He moved through his days with a peace that wasn't dependent on his circumstances, but flowed from his connection to the Father. He was incredibly active, but never anxious, deeply engaged, but never enslaved. This is the kind of life his words invite you into, not a life of inactivity or withdrawal, but a life of right activity flowing from right relationship. Not a life where nothing challenging ever happens, but a life where you're equipped to handle whatever happens with grace and peace and confidence. And here's something that makes this even more beautiful. As you learn to live from this place of rest, as you discover what it means to be active without being anxious, engaged without being enslaved, you become a gift to everyone around you. You become a source of peace in chaotic environments, a voice of wisdom in confusing situations, a presence of love in loveless places. This isn't because you're trying to be these things or working hard to project some kind of spiritual image. It's because when you're truly resting in the love and grace and peace of Jesus, these qualities naturally flow out of you. They're not something you do, they're something you become. People around you start to notice something different, something they can't quite put their finger on, but are drawn to. They see someone who handles stress differently, who responds to conflict differently, who faces uncertainty differently. They see someone who seems to have access to resources they don't have, peace they don't possess, hope they can't manufacture. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to explain it or defend it or prove it to anyone. You just live it. You just be it. You just offer it through your presence, your responses, your way of moving through the world. You become a walking advertisement for the reality and power of divine love without ever having to say a word about it. This is how the message of Jesus spreads most effectively, not through arguments or programs or marketing campaigns, but through transformed lives, living out the reality of what it means to be deeply, completely, unconditionally loved by God. People can debate theology, but they can't debate transformation. They can argue with your beliefs, but they can't argue with your peace. But here's what I need you to understand about this transformation. It's not something you achieve through effort or maintain through willpower. It's something you receive through grace and sustain through relationship. The moment you start trying to manufacture this peace or produce this transformation through your own efforts, it becomes just another form of performance, just another way to earn approval, just another burden to carry. The rest that Jesus offers isn't something you attain. It's something you inhabit. It's not a destination you reach. It's a relationship you enter. It's not a feeling you generate. It's a reality you discover. It's not based on your capacity to be peaceful, but on His capacity to give peace. It's not dependent on your ability to trust, but on His trustworthiness. This is why the words we're about to explore together are so much more than inspirational quotes or moral instructions or spiritual principles. They're the very words of life Himself, spoken to hearts that are desperate for something real, something lasting, something that actually works in the real world with real problems and real pain and real pressure. These words have sustained people through persecution and poverty, through loss and betrayal, through depression and despair. They've brought hope to the hopeless, strength to the weak, peace to the troubled, and rest to the weary. They've done this not through human wisdom or psychological technique, but through divine power working in human hearts. And that same power is available to you right now. Not because of anything you've done to deserve it, but because of everything Jesus has done to provide it. Not because of your faith or your understanding or your spiritual maturity, but because of His love and His grace and His commitment to your well-being. The table is set. The invitation has been extended. The words are waiting. The only question is whether you'll receive what's being offered, whether you'll let yourself be loved as completely as you actually are, whether you'll allow yourself to rest as deeply as you're actually invited to rest. Because here's the truth that changes everything. You don't have to be perfect to be perfectly loved. You don't have to have it all together to be completely accepted. You don't have to understand everything to benefit from everything. You don't have to be strong to be held by infinite strength. You don't have to be peaceful to receive perfect peace. You just have to be you, the real you, the you that exists underneath all the masks and roles and expectations, the you that's tired of pretending and ready for something authentic, the you that's weary of performing and hungry for something real. The you that's desperate for love, that doesn't depend on your performance and peace, that doesn't fluctuate with your circumstances. That you, the real you, is exactly who these words were spoken for. That you is exactly who Jesus died for. That you is exactly who the Father loves with an everlasting love. That you is exactly who the Spirit is working to transform, not into someone else, but into the fullest, truest, most alive version of who you actually are. So let's stop talking about these words and start receiving them. Let's stop analyzing this love and start experiencing it. Let's stop trying to understand this peace and start resting in it. Let's stop working so hard to earn what's already been given and start enjoying what's already been provided. The journey we're about to take together will change you, not because of anything you'll do, but because of everything that will be done in you. Not because of your effort, but because of His grace. Not because of your strength, but because of His power working through your weakness. Are you ready to discover what it actually feels like to rest? Are you ready to experience what it actually means to be loved without condition? Are you ready to find out what happens when you stop trying so hard and start trusting so deeply? Because that's exactly where we're headed together, into the heart of God expressed through the words of Jesus, into love that heals every wound and hope that conquers every fear, into peace that passes understanding and rest that satisfies every longing of the human heart. Your heart, right here, right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are. This is where Jesus wants to meet you. This is where His words want to do their gentle, powerful, transformative work. This is where rest begins, where peace takes root, where love makes its home. Welcome to this sacred space, friend. And as we step across the threshold into these life-giving words, I want you to understand something profound about what's about to happen. This isn't just a reading or a recitation or even a meditation. This is an encounter with words that have been speaking life into dead places for over 2 millennia. You see, when Jesus spoke, something happened that had never happened before in human history. Words didn't just convey information, they carried transformation. They didn't just communicate ideas, they imparted life. They didn't just describe reality, they created reality. The same voice that spoke light into darkness, that called forth life from nothing, that commanded storms to be still, that same voice spoke words of comfort to broken hearts, hope to desperate souls, and rest to weary spirits. And here's what makes this moment so extraordinary. Those same words, spoken 2,000 years ago to fishermen and tax collectors, to prostitutes and Pharisees, to the desperate and the self-satisfied, those exact same words carry the exact same power today. They haven't diminished with time. They haven't lost their potency through repetition. They haven't become less effective because of cultural changes or technological advances. The words you're about to hear are as alive, as powerful, as transformative today as they were the moment they first fell from the lips of Jesus. They carry within them the very breath of God, the life force of the universe, the healing power of divine love. And they're about to speak directly to whatever situation you're facing, whatever burden you're carrying, whatever battle you're fighting. But I need you to understand something about how these words work. They don't operate according to our normal understanding of cause and effect. They don't follow the rules of human logic or natural law. They work according to the principles of grace, which means they give you what you need, not what you deserve. They work according to the economy of love, which means they're motivated by God's heart for you, not by your performance for God. This means you can't manufacture their effect through your effort. You can't increase their power through your concentration. You can't earn their blessing through your goodness. You can only receive them. You can only open your heart and let them do what they've always done best. Bring life to whatever needs life. Bring hope to whatever needs hope. Bring peace to whatever needs peace. Think about a seed planted in good soil. The seed doesn't strain or struggle to grow. It doesn't work hard to produce fruit. It simply receives what it needs from the soil, the rain, the sun, and growth happens naturally, organically, inevitably. The power is in the seed, not in the effort. The life is in the DNA, not in the trying. That's exactly how the words of Jesus work in your heart. The power is in the words themselves, not in your ability to understand them perfectly or respond to them correctly. The life is in the divine nature of the one who spoke them, not in your spiritual maturity or emotional readiness. You simply receive them like good soil receives a seed, and transformation happens naturally, organically, inevitably. And here's what's so beautiful about this process. Different words will speak to you at different times in different ways. The verse that brings you comfort today might bring you challenge tomorrow. The promise that sustains you through one season might prepare you for the next season. The word that meets you in your brokenness might equip you for your breakthrough. This is because Jesus doesn't just speak to your immediate circumstances. He speaks to your deepest needs, your future challenges, your hidden potential, your eternal destiny. He sees the whole picture of your life, not just the current frame. He knows where you've been, where you are, and where you're going, and his words address all of it simultaneously. Sometimes you'll hear exactly what you expected to hear, and it will bring the comfort or guidance or strength you were looking for. Sometimes you'll hear something completely unexpected, something that doesn't seem to relate to your current situation at all, but somehow it settles into your heart and begins working in ways you can't explain. Sometimes you'll hear words that challenge or convict or call you to something bigger than you thought you were ready for. All of this is normal. All of this is how God speaks to human hearts. He doesn't limit himself to our expectations or confine himself to our understanding. He speaks what we need to hear in the way we need to hear it, when we need to hear it, whether we realize we need to hear it or not. But here's what remains constant through all the different ways Jesus speaks to different people in different situations. The heart behind the words never changes. Whether he's offering comfort or challenge, whether he's bringing peace or stirring things up, whether he's confirming what you already know or revealing something completely new, the motivation is always love, not sentimental love that just tells you what you want to hear. Not conditional love that depends on your response, not manipulative love that has a hidden agenda, but pure love, perfect love, selfless love that wants nothing but your highest good, your deepest joy, your truest life. This love is what makes it safe to really listen to these words, to really open your heart to their transforming power. You don't have to be afraid that you'll hear something that will crush your spirit or destroy your hope or leave you worse off than you were before. Even when Jesus speaks difficult truths, he speaks them in love. Even when his words challenge comfortable assumptions, they challenge them with grace. Even when he calls you to something that seems impossible, he provides everything you need to respond. And now, as we prepare to enter into this sacred encounter, I want you to do something. I want you to quiet not just your external environment, but your internal environment as well. Let the voices of worry and doubt and fear fade into the background. Let the endless commentary in your mind settle into stillness. Let the pressure to figure everything out, or fix everything, or control everything simply dissolve. You don't need to bring anything to this moment except yourself. You don't need to have the right attitude or the proper spiritual posture or the correct theological understanding. You don't need to feel a certain way or believe a certain amount or demonstrate a certain level of faith. You just need to be present, to be open, to be willing to receive whatever God wants to give you. Think of yourself as a child again. The way you were before life taught you to be suspicious of gifts, skeptical of love, and careful about trusting. Remember what it felt like to simply receive something good without analyzing it, without wondering what it would cost you, without trying to figure out what you needed to do in return. That's the heart posture that allows these words to do their deepest work. And as we step into this time together, I want you to know that you're not alone in this sacred space. You're joining countless others who have found refuge in these same words. You're part of a great company of people throughout history who have discovered that when everything else fails, when every other source of help runs dry, when human wisdom reaches its limit and human strength gives out, the words of Jesus remain. They remain powerful when everything else proves powerless. They remain relevant when everything else becomes outdated. They remain accessible when everything else becomes complicated. They remain free when everything else comes with a price. They remain available when everything else becomes exclusive. This is your inheritance as a human being created in the image of God. This is your birthright as someone loved with an everlasting love. This is your invitation into rest that your soul has been craving since the day you were born. Not just relief from your problems, though that may come. Not just answers to your questions, though some of those may be provided. But rest for your soul, peace for your heart, hope for your future, and love for your whole being. The words that are about to wash over you have comforted martyrs facing death, strengthened slaves dreaming of freedom, sustained mothers burying children, encouraged fathers providing for families, guided students searching for purpose, healed patients fighting illness, restored marriages on the brink of collapse, and brought hope to countless hearts drowning in despair. They've done all of this not through human effort or institutional power or cultural influence, but through the simple, revolutionary power of divine love, speaking truth into human hearts. And that same power is about to be released in your life, in your situation, in your heart, right here, right now. So breathe deeply, friend. Let your shoulders drop, let your guard down. Let yourself be exactly where you are and exactly who you are, because that's exactly where and who Jesus wants to meet you. Let yourself receive what's being offered without trying to earn it, understand it, or control it. Let yourself be loved the way you've always wanted to be loved, but maybe never believed was possible. Let yourself come home to the love that has been pursuing you your entire life, the peace that has been calling your name through every season of chaos, the rest that has been waiting for you to stop running long enough to receive it. Because here's the beautiful truth that's about to become your living reality. You are not too broken to be healed. You are not too lost to be found. You are not too far gone to be redeemed. You are not too weak to be strengthened. You are not too afraid to be comforted. You are not too tired to be refreshed. You are exactly who these words were spoken for. You are exactly the kind of person Jesus came to seek and save and heal and restore and love. You are exactly the reason he left heaven, lived among us, died for us, and rose again. Not the perfect version of you that doesn't exist. Not the cleaned-up version of you that you think you should be, but you, exactly as you are right now, with all your questions and doubts and fears and failures. This you is deeply, completely, eternally beloved. This you is the object of infinite affection. This you is worth everything to the one who created you and knows you and loves you beyond your ability to comprehend. And this you is about to encounter words that have the power to change everything, not through your effort, but through his grace, not through your understanding, but through his love, not through your strength, but through his power. The invitation has been extended, the table has been prepared, the words are ready. The only thing left is for you to take your place and receive what has been prepared for you since before the foundation of the world. So settle in, beloved child of God. Let yourself be held by the one who holds all things together. Let yourself be loved by the one who is love itself. Let yourself rest in the one who offers rest to all who are weary and heavy laden. And now let the words of Jesus speak life into every dead place, hope into every discouraged place, peace into every troubled place, and rest into every weary place in your heart and soul and mind. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. Let these words settle into your heart like rain on thirsty ground. Don't try to analyze them or figure them out or determine how they apply to your specific situation. Just let them be what they are, an invitation from the heart of God to your weary soul, an invitation to stop carrying burdens you were never meant to carry alone, an invitation to stop trying so hard to be someone you were never meant to be, an invitation to find your identity, your security, your peace, and your rest in the one who knows you completely and loves you unconditionally. This isn't just a nice sentiment or a comforting thought. This is a promise from the one who spoke the universe into existence. This is a guarantee from the one who has never broken a promise or failed to keep his word. This is an invitation from the one who has the power to deliver on everything he offers. When Jesus says he will give you rest, he doesn't mean he might give you rest if conditions are right, or if you prove yourself worthy, or if you figure out how to earn it. He means he will give you rest, period. Because he has rest to give, because he wants to give it to you, because he loves you enough to provide what you need most. But notice what kind of rest this is. It's not just physical rest, though your body may find relief. It's not just emotional rest, though your emotions may find peace. It's not just mental rest, though your mind may find quiet. This is rest for your soul, the deepest part of who you are, the place where your truest identity and deepest longings reside. Soul rest is different from any other kind of rest because it addresses not just your symptoms, but your source. It doesn't just give you temporary relief from your current struggles. It connects you to eternal peace that can sustain you through any struggle. It doesn't just help you cope with your circumstances. It gives you a foundation that's stronger than any circumstance you might face. And this rest comes not through your effort, but through his invitation. You don't have to work for it, earn it, deserve it, or figure out how to access it. You simply come. Come as you are, bring what you have, offer what you can, and receive what you need. The word come is one of the most beautiful words in human language because it implies movement towards something better, something safer, something more satisfying than where you currently are. When Jesus says, come, he's not asking you to go somewhere else or become someone else. He's inviting you to move toward him, to draw near to the source of everything your heart has been searching for. And notice who this invitation is for. Not just the good people or the religious people or the people who have their lives together. All who are weary and burdened. All who are tired of trying so hard and carrying so much. All who have reached the end of their own resources and discovered that their own strength isn't enough. All who are ready to admit that they need help, that they need rest, that they need something beyond what they can provide for themselves. If you're hearing these words right now, you qualify. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the demands of life, you qualify. If you've ever carried burdens that felt too heavy for your shoulders, you qualify. If you've ever felt tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix, you qualify. If you've ever wondered if there's more to life than the endless cycle of working and worrying and trying to keep everything together, you qualify. This invitation is for you. Not the perfect version of you, not the future version of you, not the version of you that you think you should be. You, right here, right now, exactly as you are. You qualify for rest not because of anything you've done, but because of everything Jesus has done. You qualify for peace not because you've earned it, but because he's provided it. You qualify for love not because you deserve it, but because he is it. And when you come to him, when you accept this invitation to rest, something beautiful happens. You discover that the yoke he offers is easy, and his burden is light. This doesn't mean that life becomes free of challenges or difficulties. It means that you're no longer facing those challenges alone. You're connected to infinite wisdom, unlimited strength, and inexhaustible love. A yoke was a wooden beam used to connect two animals so they could work together to pull a heavy load. When Jesus talks about his yoke being easy, he's saying that when you're connected to him, when you're working alongside him, when you're learning from him, even the heavy things in life become manageable because you're not carrying them by yourself. But here's what makes this even more beautiful. When you're yoked together with Jesus, you're not the senior partner in the relationship. You're not expected to carry your share of the load through your own strength. You're the junior partner, learning from the one who has infinite strength, perfect wisdom, and endless patience. He sets the pace, he chooses the direction, he provides the power. You simply stay connected and learn from him. And what do you learn? That he is gentle and humble in heart. This is crucial to understand because so many people have been hurt by harsh religion or legalistic spirituality or demanding relationships that claim to represent God but actually misrepresented his heart. Jesus wants you to know that when you come to him, you're not coming to someone who will criticize your failures, magnify your weaknesses, or add more pressure to your already overwhelmed life. You're coming to someone who is gentle with your bruised heart and humble enough to meet you exactly where you are. Someone who doesn't look down on you for struggling, but looks with compassion on your struggle. Someone who doesn't shame you for your weaknesses, but offers strength for your weaknesses. Someone who doesn't condemn you for your failures, but provides grace for your failures. This gentleness and humility aren't signs of weakness. They're expressions of incredible strength and confidence. Only someone who is completely secure in their own identity can afford to be truly gentle with others. Only someone who has nothing to prove can afford to be genuinely humble. Only someone who has unlimited resources can afford to give freely without keeping track of what they're owed. This is the heart of the one who invites you to rest. This is the character of the one who offers to carry your burdens. This is the nature of the one who promises to give you what your soul needs most. Not harsh, not demanding, not impossible to please, but gentle and humble and absolutely trustworthy. And as you learn from him, as you spend time in his presence, as you allow his words to shape your understanding and his love to heal your wounds, you discover something amazing. The rest he offers isn't just a temporary break from your troubles. It's a new way of being in the world, a new way of handling pressure, a new way of relating to yourself and others and circumstances. You learn to work without anxiety because you're connected to the one who holds the future. You learn to love without manipulation because you're already completely loved. You learn to give without resentment because you're constantly receiving from an inexhaustible source. You learn to serve without burnout because you're serving from a place of rest rather than striving. This is the rest that Jesus offers, and it's available to you right now. Not next week when your circumstances improve, not next month when you get your act together. Not next year when you figure out how to be more spiritual. Right now, exactly as you are, exactly where you are, in the middle of whatever you're facing. The invitation stands. The rest is available. The yoke is easy. The burden is light. The one who offers it is gentle and humble in heart. And you, beloved child of God, you are exactly who this invitation was meant for. So come. Come tired, come overwhelmed, come confused, come broken. Come with your questions and your doubts and your fears. Come with your failures and your regrets and your shame. Come with whatever you're carrying, whatever you're facing, whatever you're feeling. Come and discover what it means to be held by infinite love, strengthened by unlimited power, and guided by perfect wisdom. Come and find the rest your soul has been craving since the day you were born. Come and learn what it means to live from a place of peace rather than panic, rest rather than restlessness, love rather than fear. The table is set. The invitation has been extended. The rest is prepared. The only question is whether you'll receive what's being offered, whether you'll let yourself be loved as completely as you actually are, whether you'll allow yourself to rest as deeply as you're actually invited to rest. Because here's the truth that changes everything. You don't have to carry your burdens alone anymore. You don't have to figure everything out by yourself. You don't have to be strong enough to handle whatever life throws at you. You don't have to earn your worth, or prove your value, or justify your existence. You can rest. You can breathe. You can be held and loved and guided by the one who created you, knows you, and has plans for you that are better than anything you could plan for yourself. This is your invitation. This is your inheritance. This is your opportunity to discover what it means to truly come home to the love that has been pursuing you your entire life. So what will it be, friend? Will you keep carrying what you were never meant to carry alone? Will you keep trying to be strong enough to handle everything by yourself? Will you keep searching for rest in all the wrong places? Or will you accept the invitation that's been extended to you? Will you come to the one who offers true rest for weary souls? Will you discover what it means to be yoked together with infinite love, unlimited grace, and perfect peace? The choice is yours, but know this: whatever you choose, you are loved. Whatever you decide, you are valuable. Whatever you do, you matter more than you can possibly imagine to the one who spoke these words of invitation and rest. Come, beloved child of God. Come and find the rest your soul has been searching for. Come and discover what it means to be home. Peace, be still. Let these words wash over you like gentle rain on parched ground. Don't rush past them. Don't try to dissect their meaning or figure out how they apply to your complicated life. Just let them settle into the deepest places of your heart. When Jesus spoke these words to the storm on the Sea of Galilee, something extraordinary happened. The wind stopped howling, the waves stopped crashing, the chaos stopped churning. In an instant, perfect calm replaced perfect chaos. But here's what's remarkable. He speaks these same words to the storms in your heart right now. That anxiety that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning. Peace, be still. That fear that grips you when you think about the future. Peace, be still. That anger that rises up when you feel misunderstood or mistreated. Peace, be still. That shame that whispers lies about your worth when no one else is listening. Peace, be still. You see, Jesus doesn't just speak to external storms. He specializes in the internal tempests that threaten to tear your soul apart. The storms that no one else can see, but that feel more real and more dangerous than any hurricane or tornado. The storms of doubt and depression, of loneliness and loss, of regret and rejection. And just like that day on the lake, his voice carries the same authority over your inner chaos that it carried over the wind and waves. Not because you've been good enough to deserve calm seas. Not because you've prayed hard enough or believed long enough or tried hard enough, but because he is who he is, and you are who you are to him. Think about what was happening in that boat before Jesus spoke. The disciples were experienced fishermen. They knew these waters. They'd weathered storms before, but this storm was different. This storm was beyond their expertise, beyond their equipment, beyond their strength. They were facing something that all their knowledge and experience couldn't handle. Sound familiar? Maybe you're in a storm right now that's beyond your expertise. Maybe you're facing something that all your education, all your experience, all your natural abilities can't solve. Maybe you've tried everything you know to try, and the storm just keeps raging. That's exactly where Jesus does his best work. Not when you have everything under control, but when everything is out of control. Not when you're managing fine on your own, but when you realize you can't manage anymore. Not when you're confident in your own abilities, but when your abilities have reached their limit. The disciples didn't wake Jesus because they thought he might have some good advice about storm management. They woke him because they were about to die, and they were desperate. They had reached the end of their own resources and discovered that their own resources weren't enough. And what did Jesus do? He didn't give them a lecture about their lack of faith. He didn't criticize them for waking him up. He didn't tell them they should have tried harder to handle it themselves. He simply spoke to the storm with the same voice that spoke the universe into existence, and everything changed. Peace, be still. 3 simple words that carry more power than all the therapy sessions, all the self-help books, all the positive thinking, all the human effort combined. 3 words that don't just describe what you need, but actually provide what you need. 3 words that don't just point you toward peace, but actually create peace in the speaking of them. But here's what I need you to understand about this kind of peace. It's not the absence of difficulty. It's the presence of God in the middle of difficulty. It's not the elimination of challenges. It's the supernatural calm that can exist right in the center of challenging circumstances. The sea didn't become peaceful because the storm went somewhere else. The sea became peaceful because the Prince of Peace spoke to it. Your heart doesn't become peaceful because your problems disappear. Your heart becomes peaceful because the Prince of Peace speaks to it. This means you don't have to wait for your circumstances to change before you can experience peace. You don't have to solve all your problems before you can know calm. You don't have to figure everything out before you can rest in the assurance that everything is going to be okay. The peace Jesus offers is bigger than your circumstances because it comes from someone who is bigger than your circumstances. It's stronger than your problems because it flows from someone who is stronger than your problems. It's more permanent than your troubles because it's rooted in someone who is more permanent than your troubles. Think about a lighthouse standing firm while waves crash against it. The lighthouse doesn't stop the storm. It doesn't calm the sea, but it remains steady, unmovable, a beacon of hope and safety in the midst of chaos. That's what happens when the peace of Jesus takes up residence in your heart. The storms may still rage around you, but you have something solid to stand on, something unshakable to anchor to. But let me tell you something that might surprise you about this peace. It's not something you have to manufacture or maintain through your own effort. It's not a feeling you have to work up or a state of mind you have to achieve through discipline or technique. It's a gift that's given, not a goal that's earned. When Jesus said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you," he wasn't offering a reward for good behavior or a prize for spiritual achievement. He was making a declaration about what he freely provides to everyone who comes to him. He wasn't describing something you might experience if you're lucky or if conditions are just right. He was promising something you will experience because he has the power to provide it. His peace isn't like the world's peace. The world's peace depends on everything going according to plan. God's peace exists even when nothing goes according to your plan. The world's peace requires favorable circumstances. God's peace creates favorable conditions in your heart, regardless of external conditions. The world's peace is fragile, temporary, conditional. It's here today and gone tomorrow. It depends on your health, your relationships, your finances, your circumstances, all lining up just right. But God's peace is unshakable, eternal, unconditional. It doesn't depend on anything in your life being perfect, because it flows from someone who is perfect. This is why Jesus could sleep in the stern of a boat during a life-threatening storm. Not because he didn't care about the danger or wasn't aware of the severity of the situation, but because his peace wasn't dependent on the storm's behavior. His rest wasn't contingent on the sea's cooperation. His calm wasn't based on his circumstances, but on his relationship with the Father. And that same peace, that same rest, that same calm is available to you right now. Not because your storm has stopped, but because the one who commands storms is with you in your boat. Not because your problems have been solved, but because the problem solver is present in your situation. Not because your future is certain, but because your future holder is faithful. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in everyday life. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning not with that familiar knot of anxiety in your stomach, but with a deep, settled assurance that you're held by someone who knows exactly what this day will bring and has already made provision for whatever you'll need to handle it. Imagine walking into that difficult conversation not with your usual defensiveness and fear, but with a quiet confidence that your worth isn't determined by how that conversation goes, because your worth has already been established by someone whose opinion matters more than anyone else's. Imagine facing that uncertain situation, not with paralyzing worry about all the things that could go wrong, but with peaceful trust that even if things don't go the way you hope, you're connected to someone who can work all things together for your good. This isn't wishful thinking or positive psychology. This is the practical result of really believing what Jesus said about peace and allowing his words to do their transforming work in your heart and mind. This is what happens when you stop trying to create peace through controlling your circumstances and start receiving peace as a gift from the one who controls all circumstances. But I want to be honest with you about something. Learning to live from this place of peace isn't always easy, especially at first. We've been conditioned to believe that peace is something we have to create through our own efforts, something we have to earn through our performance, something we have to maintain through our vigilance. The idea that we can simply receive peace as a gift challenges everything our culture teaches us about how to handle stress and anxiety and uncertainty. It goes against our natural instinct to take control, to figure things out, to make something happen through our own strength and wisdom. There's a part of us that resists this kind of supernatural peace because it requires us to let go of the illusion that we're in control of our lives. It asks us to trust someone we can't see with outcomes we can't predict. It invites us to rest in promises we can't prove through human logic or scientific method. But here's what I've discovered through years of learning to receive this peace rather than trying to create it. The discomfort of letting go of control is nothing compared to the exhaustion of trying to control everything. The challenge of trusting God is nothing compared to the burden of trying to be God in your own life. When you really let yourself receive the peace that Jesus offers, when you really allow his words to settle the storms in your heart, something beautiful happens. You discover that you have more energy for the things that actually matter because you're not wasting energy worrying about things you can't control anyway. You find that you're more present in your relationships because you're not constantly distracted by anxiety about the future or regret about the past. You realize that you're more effective in your work because you're operating from a place of calm focus rather than frantic striving. You notice that you sleep better at night because your mind isn't racing with all the what-ifs and if-onlys that used to keep you awake. You discover that you enjoy life more because you're not constantly braced for the next crisis or disappointment. This is what Jesus meant when he said his peace surpasses understanding. It doesn't make sense from a human perspective that you could be at peace in the middle of uncertain circumstances. It's not logical that you could have calm in your heart while there's chaos in your life. It's not reasonable that you could rest when there are so many reasons to worry. But God's ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. His peace operates according to spiritual laws that transcend natural understanding. It's powered by divine love rather than human logic. It flows from eternal realities rather than temporary circumstances. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to understand how it works to benefit from how it works. You don't have to be able to explain supernatural peace to experience supernatural peace. You don't have to comprehend divine love to be transformed by divine love. You simply receive what's being offered. You open your heart to the peace that passes understanding. You allow the words, "Peace, be still," to speak directly to whatever storm is raging in your soul right now. Maybe it's the storm of financial pressure that's been keeping you awake at night, making you feel like you're drowning in debt and obligations. Peace, be still. Maybe it's the storm of relational conflict that's been tearing your family apart, making every conversation feel like walking through a minefield. Peace, be still. Maybe it's the storm of health concerns that's been filling your mind with fear about what the future holds, making every ache and pain feel like a potential catastrophe. Peace, be still. Maybe it's the storm of career uncertainty that's been making you question everything about your purpose and direction in life. Peace, be still. Maybe it's the storm of grief that's been overwhelming you since you lost someone precious to you, making it hard to imagine how you'll ever feel whole again. Peace, be still. Maybe it's the storm of disappointment that's been raging since your dreams didn't turn out the way you planned, making you wonder if hope is just a cruel joke. Peace, be still. Whatever storm you're facing, whatever chaos is churning in your heart, whatever tempest is threatening to overwhelm your soul, these words are for you. Not as a nice sentiment or a comforting thought, but as a declaration of divine authority over everything that's trying to destroy your peace. The same Jesus who commanded the wind and waves has the power to command whatever is disturbing your rest. The same voice that brought calm to the Sea of Galilee can bring calm to the sea of your troubled thoughts and emotions. The same authority that silenced the storm can silence whatever is screaming lies into your weary heart. But here's what makes this even more personal. Jesus doesn't speak these words to your storm from a distance. He's not standing on the shore, shouting commands across the water. He's in the boat with you. He's present in your situation. He's aware of your struggle. He's with you in the middle of whatever you're going through. This means you're not facing your storm alone. You're not left to figure out how to calm the chaos by yourself. You're not expected to manufacture peace through your own strength or wisdom or technique. The Prince of Peace himself is present with you, ready to speak the same words that transformed chaos into calm 2,000 years ago. And just like that day on the lake, his words carry the same power today that they carried then. They haven't lost their authority through the passage of time. They haven't become less effective because of cultural changes or technological advances. They're as powerful today as they were the moment he first spoke them. Peace, be still. Let these words sink deeper than your conscious mind into the very core of who you are. Let them address not just your current crisis, but the chronic anxiety that's been your companion for so long you've forgotten what it feels like to live without it. Let them speak to not just your immediate concerns, but the deep-seated fear that's been driving your decisions, shaping your relationships, and stealing your joy for years. Let them reach not just your present circumstances, but the wounded places in your heart that have never known true peace. Because here's what Jesus offers that nothing else in this world can provide. Not temporary relief that lasts until the next crisis hits. Not conditional calm that depends on everything going your way. Not fragile tranquility that shatters the moment something unexpected happens. He offers supernatural peace that can coexist with natural turmoil. Divine calm that can exist in the middle of human chaos. Heavenly rest that can fill your heart even when earthly circumstances are anything but restful. This is the peace that enabled early Christians to sing hymns in prison cells. This is the calm that sustained martyrs facing death with joy. This is the rest that carried ordinary believers through extraordinary trials throughout history. And this same peace, this same calm, this same rest is your inheritance as a beloved child of God. Not because you've earned it through your goodness or achieved it through your spiritual discipline, but because Jesus has purchased it through his sacrifice and provided it through his grace. The storm in your heart doesn't have to rage forever. The chaos in your mind doesn't have to be your constant companion. The anxiety in your soul doesn't have to define your daily experience. There is another way to live, another way to be, another way to experience life, even in the middle of difficult circumstances. That way is found in surrendering to the one who has authority over every storm, trusting in the one who has power over every chaos, resting in the one who offers peace that surpasses all understanding. So right now, in this moment, wherever you are, whatever you're facing, I invite you to hear these words as if Jesus is speaking them directly to your specific situation, not as a general promise for humanity, but as a personal declaration over your individual storm. Peace, be still. Let the wind of worry cease its howling in your mind. Let the waves of anxiety stop crashing over your heart. Let the storm of fear lose its power to terrorize your thoughts. Let the chaos of uncertainty give way to the calm of divine assurance. You don't have to make this happen through your effort. You don't have to work up the faith to believe it. You don't have to be strong enough or spiritual enough or good enough to deserve it. You simply receive it as the gift it is from the giver who loves you beyond your ability to comprehend. Peace. Be still. Not just for a moment, not just until the next crisis, but as a new way of being in the world, a new way of handling pressure, a new way of facing uncertainty, a new way of living from a center of calm that nothing in this world can disturb, because it's anchored in someone who is bigger than this world. This is your invitation, beloved child of God. This is your opportunity to discover what it means to have peace in the storm rather than just peace after the storm. This is your chance to experience the supernatural calm that can transform not just how you feel, but how you live, how you love, how you hope, and how you handle whatever life brings your way. The words have been spoken, the authority has been declared, the peace has been provided. The only question is whether you'll receive what's being offered, whether you'll let yourself be stilled by the one who has the power to still every storm. Peace, be still. Let it be so in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in your life. Let the peace that passes understanding guard your heart and mind in Christ Jesus. Let the calm of heaven settle into the chaos of earth. Let the rest of God fill the restlessness of your human experience. You are loved beyond measure. You are held beyond the reach of any storm. You are at peace because the Prince of Peace has spoken. And his word never returns empty, but accomplishes everything for which it was sent. Peace, be still, receive it, rest in it. Let it transform you from the inside out, from anxiety to assurance, from worry to worship, from fear to faith, from chaos to calm. This is who you are in Christ. This is what's available to you right now. This is the life that Jesus died to give you and rose to guarantee for you. Not someday in heaven, but today on earth. Not when everything gets better, but right in the middle of everything that's difficult. Peace, be still. Let it be so. I need you to know something profound about what just happened when you heard those words. When Jesus spoke, "Peace, be still," to your heart, it wasn't just a nice sentiment floating through the air. Something shifted in the spiritual realm. Something changed in the atmosphere around your soul. Something was set in motion that your conscious mind might not even be aware of yet, but your spirit recognizes. You see, the words of Jesus don't just carry information, they carry transformation. They don't just convey meaning, they release power. They don't just describe what could be, they create what is. When he speaks peace over your storm, peace isn't just a possibility anymore. Peace becomes a present reality, working its way from the depths of your spirit into every area of your life. But here's where it gets even more beautiful. The peace you just received isn't meant to stay contained within you. It's meant to overflow from you. It's meant to become so much a part of who you are that other people can sense it when they're around you. They may not be able to put their finger on what's different about you, but they'll know something has changed. Think about a well that's been filled with fresh water after a long drought. The well doesn't hoard that water or keep it to itself. It naturally provides refreshment to everyone who comes to it. That's what happens when the peace of Jesus fills your heart. You become a source of calm in chaotic environments, a voice of reason in confusing situations, a presence of hope in hopeless circumstances. This isn't something you have to manufacture or perform or work hard to project. It's something you become as a natural result of being filled with the peace that passes understanding. People will be drawn to you without knowing why. They'll seek you out during their own storms because something in your presence reminds them that peace is possible, even when everything feels impossible. But let me tell you about another dimension of Jesus' words that might surprise you. When he said, Let not your heart be troubled. He wasn't just giving good advice or sharing a helpful tip for managing anxiety. He was revealing something fundamental about how you were designed to live. Your heart was never meant to be a permanent residence for trouble. Your mind was never intended to be a breeding ground for worry. Your soul was never designed to carry the weight of constant fear and anxiety. These things may visit you from time to time because you live in a broken world, but they were never meant to move in and make themselves at home. When Jesus tells your heart not to be troubled, he's calling you back to your original design. He's reminding you of who you were created to be before the world taught you to be afraid, before circumstances taught you to worry, before experience taught you to expect the worst. You were created for peace. You were designed for rest. You were made for love, for joy, for hope, for all the things that make life worth living. The trouble in your heart isn't your natural state. It's an invader that's been allowed to occupy territory that rightfully belongs to peace. And here's the beautiful thing about Jesus' authority. He doesn't just ask trouble to leave politely, he commands it to go. He doesn't negotiate with anxiety or try to reason with fear. He speaks with the same authority that created the universe, and whatever he commands has no choice but to obey. But this authority isn't cold or harsh or demanding. Remember, this is the same Jesus who is gentle and humble in heart. When he speaks to the troubled places in your heart, he speaks with the tenderness of someone who loves you completely and the authority of someone who has the power to help you completely. Think about a loving parent speaking to a child who's been terrorized by nightmares. The parent doesn't just offer sympathy or understanding, though those are present. The parent speaks with authority. You're safe now. The scary things can't hurt you here. I'm with you. And nothing bad is going to happen to you while I'm watching over you. That's the heart behind Jesus' words to your troubled soul. He's not minimizing your fears or dismissing your concerns. He's declaring his authority over them and his commitment to you. He's reminding you that you're not alone in your struggle and you're not helpless in your situation. When he says, "Let not your heart be troubled," he's not putting pressure on you to stop feeling what you're feeling. He's taking authority over the source of your trouble and providing you with the resources you need to experience something better. You believe in God, he says. That's not a question or a command. It's a recognition of something that's already true about you. Even when your faith feels weak, even when your doubts seem overwhelming, even when you can barely whisper a prayer, there's something in you that believes. There's something in you that hopes. There's something in you that reaches toward the light even in the darkest moments. Jesus sees that faith, no matter how small it seems to you. He honors that belief, no matter how fragile it feels. He works through that tiny mustard seed of trust, no matter how inadequate you think it is. Because faith isn't about the strength of your believing. It's about the faithfulness of the one you believe in. And now he invites you to extend that same trust to him. Believe also in me. Not as an additional burden or another religious requirement, but as the natural extension of the faith you already have. If you can trust the invisible God who created everything you see, you can trust the visible God who walked among us and demonstrated his love by laying down his life for you. This isn't about intellectual assent to theological propositions. This is about personal trust in a person who has proven his trustworthiness through his actions. This is about relational confidence in someone who has never broken a promise or failed to keep his word. This is about heart-level assurance in the one who knows you completely and loves you unconditionally. But here's where Jesus takes this invitation to trust him to a level that's almost too good to believe. He doesn't just ask you to trust him for comfort in your troubles. He invites you to trust him for something infinitely better than anything this world can offer. In my Father's house are many rooms. Picture the most beautiful, peaceful, welcoming place you've ever been. Maybe it's a childhood home where you felt completely safe and loved. Maybe it's a vacation spot where all your worries seem to melt away. Maybe it's just a quiet corner somewhere that felt like sanctuary from the chaos of life. Now imagine something infinitely better than that. A place where you're not just visiting, but where you truly belong. A place where you're not just tolerated, but where you're completely celebrated. A place where you're not just safe, but where you're perfectly at home. That's what Jesus is describing when he talks about his Father's house. Not just a location, but a state of being. Not just a destination, but a way of existing. Not just somewhere you'll go someday, but somewhere you belong right now because of who you are to the Father. And the most beautiful part? He's preparing a place specifically for you. Not a generic room that could belong to anyone, but a space designed with your particular personality, your unique preferences, your individual needs in mind. A place that fits you like it was made just for you, because it was made just for you. I go to prepare a place for you, he says. This isn't just about heaven in the distant future, though it includes that. This is about Jesus actively working right now to create space for you in every area of your life where you need to experience his presence, his peace, his love. He's preparing a place for you in your relationships, a space where you can love and be loved without fear or manipulation. He's preparing a place for you in your work, a space where you can serve and contribute and find meaning without being consumed by stress or competition. He's preparing a place for you in your own heart, a space where you can rest and be at peace with yourself because you know you're at peace with him. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself. This is perhaps the most beautiful promise in all of Scripture because it reveals the heart of God toward you. Jesus doesn't just prepare a place for you and then leave you to find your own way there. He comes back to personally escort you to where you belong. He doesn't send an angel or a messenger or even a close friend. He comes himself because you're that important to him. You're that valuable to him. You're that loved by him. He wants to personally make sure you arrive safely at the place he's prepared for you. But here's what makes this promise even more incredible. He doesn't just come to take you to where he is. He comes so that where he is, there you may be also. This isn't about you visiting his space. This is about you sharing his space. This is about you being included in his world, his reality, his experience of perfect love and peace and joy. Think about what this means. The one who exists in perfect fellowship with the Father, the one who knows what it means to be completely loved and completely loving, the one who experiences unbroken peace and unending joy. He wants you to share that experience with him. Not because you've earned it or deserved it or figured out how to qualify for it, but because he loves you and wants you to experience everything good that he experiences. Because in his mind, heaven wouldn't be complete without you there. Paradise wouldn't be perfect if you were missing from it. This is how much you matter to Jesus. This is how valuable you are in his sight. This is how deep his love for you goes. It's not just that he died to save you from something bad. He died to bring you into something infinitely good. He didn't just rescue you from hell. He guaranteed your place in heaven. But let me tell you something that might surprise you about this heavenly reality. It's not just about what's waiting for you in the future. It's about what's available to you right now. The peace of heaven can fill your heart today. The love of the Father can surround you in this moment. The joy of Jesus can become your daily experience. You don't have to wait until you die to experience the life that Jesus died to give you. You don't have to postpone peace until you reach paradise. You don't have to delay joy until you get to heaven. The kingdom of heaven is at hand, Jesus said. It's within reach. It's available now. This is why his words have the power to transform your present circumstances, not just your eternal destiny. This is why he can speak peace to your current storm, not just promise peace in some future paradise. This is why he offers rest for your weary soul today, not just rest in the sweet by and by. The place he's preparing for you isn't just a future destination. It's a present reality, that you can begin experiencing the moment you trust Him with your whole heart. It's a way of being in this world that reflects the reality of the world to come. It's a quality of life that transcends your circumstances because it's rooted in eternal realities. And where I am, there you may be also. Right now, in this moment, Jesus is in the presence of the Father, experiencing perfect love, perfect peace, perfect joy. And He's saying that you can be there with Him, not just someday in heaven, but today in your heart. When you trust Him completely, when you let His words settle into the deepest places of your being, when you allow His love to heal your wounds and His peace to calm your storms, you're experiencing a taste of heaven on earth. You're living in the reality of where He is, even while you're still here in this broken world. This is the great mystery and miracle of faith. You can be physically present in your difficult circumstances while spiritually present in heavenly places. You can be geographically located in your current challenges while relationally connected to eternal realities. You can be temporarily stuck in your present struggles while eternally secure in your future hope. But here's what I need you to understand about this incredible invitation. It's not dependent on your ability to figure it all out or understand it completely. Jesus said to His disciples, "You know the way to the place where I am going." And Thomas immediately responded, "Lord, we don't know where you are going, so how can we know the way?" Thomas was speaking for all of us who feel confused about spiritual things, who don't have all the answers figured out, who sometimes feel lost even in our faith journey. He was expressing the honest confusion that many of us feel when faced with promises that seem too good to be true, or invitations that seem too wonderful to be real. And how did Jesus respond to Thomas's confusion? Not with criticism or impatience, but with the most beautiful, simple, life-changing declaration in human history. I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. You don't have to figure out the way because Jesus is the way. You don't have to discover the truth because Jesus is the truth. You don't have to manufacture life because Jesus is the life. You don't have to find your path to God because Jesus is your path to God. Friend, as we come to the end of this sacred time together, I want you to carry something with you. You came here weary, and you're leaving with an invitation to rest that will never expire. You came carrying burdens, and you've discovered someone who specializes in carrying what you cannot. You came searching for peace, and you've encountered the Prince of Peace himself, speaking directly to the storms in your soul. The words of Jesus aren't just beautiful poetry or ancient wisdom. They're living water for your thirsty heart, available to you every moment of every day. Come back to them when the world gets loud again. Return to this rest whenever the weight feels too heavy. You are deeply loved, completely known, and eternally held.